Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
So when I was working on Selena, the series for Netflix, to play the role of Abraham Quintanilla, I put on a specific amount of weight, which I was fine doing, but also realizing it could be difficult to get that weight off. I got back into my physical regimen with James Leha, but I was still having trouble with just those last amounts. And that's when I got to meet Arturo from Laredo Medical Weight Loss Clinic. And just the products that he gave me kind of put me over the edge. I feel great about myself.
Hi, I'm Don McLaughlin. I'm a candidate for House District 80, which consists of Webb County, Uvalde County, Dimmitt County, Zavala County, Frio County, and Atascosa County. I'm also a small businessman, and I know what it takes to run a small business. And for too long, we've had too much government regulation coming into our small business and making it tougher and tougher for us to survive and get by. And that's one of the things I hope to change. Small business is the backbone of the state of Texas, and we need to make sure it thrives and that they have the support they need in government and less government regulation.
Back at you in Gloves Off, and today I have a great guest, Scott Roberts, who's running for LISD
District 4.
District 4. And early vote's already gone. How do you feel the campaign's going?
I think it's going very well. We've gotten some good responses. I know I've been using social media a lot. It's more non-traditional, but since the pandemic, that's pretty much where we've been at. And I think it's going very well. I've gotten a lot of good responses. Not so much on social media, of course. A lot of people, they're silent majority voters, so they typically don't want to put their name out there in regards to the fact that they don't want people to know who they're voting for, and rightly so. I mean, your vote is your choice and no one else's. And the best way to get voters out is to let them know that you're encouraging them to go vote. Voting is very important in our society today, especially even now.
Absolutely. Sometimes when we go through, what I've seen a lot of candidates go as their campaign is going, they start finding out some of the problems that are out there. People start talking to them, you know what, this is going on, and you kind of focus and you realize that is a problem. Has that happened with you?
Yes, it actually has. I've heard several different things, and that they're not very happy because and I'm not, taking a stance for or against certain things, but let me give you an example. United and LISD just pushed out a one-time retention bonus. Of course, they've done that over several years and stuff. And then I hear the comments about, well, we brought this to you. And be it for me to say, the employees do deserve it. They deserve a lot more. That's one of my platform things regarding the employees, and we can really delve in and discuss that. But
sure.
When it's brought to the board for approval and the board approves it, I hear a lot of times that they say, well, we brought this to you. This is what we're being generous to give you this. We know you deserve more. And they're right in many ways, but they're not right in the fact that they brought this to you. This is taxpayer money that the board is in charge of overseeing and being scrupulous with those funds. And I do believe the employees deserve it. They deserve much more than that. They deserve a raise. It's part of my platform there to look at trying to give them a 10% increase in raises, especially for paraprofessionals, and I like to call them professional support staff, because they're deserving of that. They work hard. They do a lot of things for us behind the scenes that a lot of times are gone unnoticed, but very appreciated. And I've always been an employee advocate. So I do feel that sometimes when the board does take action, and rightfully so, because that's their charge, that, saying that we brought this to you is kind of a miscommunication in many ways. The taxpayers pay their taxes. The taxpayers fund the operations of the school district. And as such, when funds are brought forth, the board should be inclined to say, thanks to the taxpayers of our district, this is why we're able to provide you these types of funds. And of course, we're looking to do more, and we want to do more. So those are some of the things that I feel are lacking in the transparency of the school district, in that when things are done at the school district, events and so on and so forth, and somebody asked me the other day, and one of the points that you were making, bringing up about issues, is that whenever there's events hosted at LISD, now I do understand that the board members should be at certain functions, but typically, I'm always, and I've been a parent, I've been a booster, the football, Martin, Nixon, Figueroa, all three schools, working with the band, at Nixon, working with VMT, had three wonderful children graduate from VMT. So I'm very strong proponent for the fine arts and communications programs, also for the early colleges. But I do feel that a lot of times what winds up happening is when a board member shows up to an event, the event shifts focus from the parents and students and the purpose of the event, because administration and board members tend to take over the first part of the programs, and it focuses on them more so than focuses on the point of what the program is there for. So I may not necessarily attend all the volleyball games or tennis games and so on and so forth, but the parents and the students and our voters, taxpayers, even employees, the board and administration need to understand that those events that are created and established and planned are for the parents and the students to celebrate their accomplishments, not to celebrate me, myself, if I become an elected board member, to show up and take over the programming because I'm there and I need that attention for myself. I don't seek personal attention. I believe that, there's sometimes, and some events are good to be there because you want to represent, you want to be seen. But what you don't want to do, there's a fine line between, being there in support of and being there in recognition of self. Okay.
Understood. So, is that basically what's going on? Like, in other words, they're taking over events and saying, you know what, this is me, look at me, kind of attitude?
I feel that in a lot of times that does happen. I'll give you a perfect example, like
they're egoistic.
The Special Olympics, great program, wonderful. I mean, the city supports it a lot, but the kids get out there. It starts around 7:30, 8 o'clock. Everybody's ready and stuff, but then for an hour or so, it's spent with administration speaking, welcoming everybody. The board members get involved and start talking and everything, and then all of a sudden the event starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's already 95 degrees. Sure. Had we started at 8 o'clock, maybe a small introduction of maybe 15 to 20 minutes, then allow the kids to start getting into what they're doing, so we can not keep them in those conditions for so long. Especially it being an outdoor activity.
Is the Border Olympics, is it a separate entity or is it part of the school district?
It's a separate entity, but the school district hosts the okay. Olympics, the Special Olympics. The Border Olympics is a different entity altogether.
That's what I'm saying. So they're it's a different. Yeah, I understand. And maybe there has to be some type of, maybe it's mismanagement of planning.
And maybe that has to do with that.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe we need a planner of events that says, you know what, you got 2 minutes to speak.
Right. And I would love more. I would love more to show up at an event, and instead of being handed a microphone or recognized as being there, is being out there talking to the parents and the students and how are you doing, how's it going, and that to me is more important, to be out there with the people than to actually drive focus to self.
What I'm getting from a lot of people is that more and more we're getting public officials that are self-serving than serving the public, right?
Right.
And that it's more of an ego trip than anything else that they're in. and they kind of hinder that, take that away from everything else that's going on. I understand that. I understand that you got elected. I understand that you're popular in that sense. I understand that, you know, people are looking up to you, but you also have to look after them. You know what I'm saying? So I understand all that, and I understand that some people cannot handle that.
Right.
And they become, you know, their head gets swelled up. And not all of them, because you got some that are very, very down-to-earth individuals.
Absolutely.
And you got some that are still, they think it's about you. No, you know, the sun, I keep saying this to everybody. There's a lot of people that believe the sun rises for them.
Mm-hmm.
No, the sun rises for the whole world. You know, it goes down for the whole world.
Everybody gets to share in that experience, right?
You know, it's not there for you. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
I understand that, and I think we have lost track. But I look at this, and I'm seeing the same problem with UISD. I'm seeing the same concerns, LISD, the city, and it seems to me that it's more of the people that are on the bottom, brown nosing, putting it straightforward, brown nosing their way up to the top, than the actual board members doing something. So it's these people that are on the bottom, kind of, you know, when I'm protecting their jobs,
The
pushing
bottom,
people,
the bottom feeders.
the bottom, you know what I'm saying? And they're the ones that are causing the havoc, and sometimes you don't see it.
Right. Right.
You know, I see a lot of, oh, I'm just going to say the board member told me to do this, but you never talk to the board member. But since you're always around them, come out in all the pictures,
Correct.
people believe that. You know what I'm saying? They're dropping a lot of names,
Right.
and I think that's the culture that's here in Laredo. They drop a lot of names, they do this and they do that, and all of a sudden they get them in trouble without them even knowing that this is going on below them.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think would it be the department heads, or I think it's lower down on the food scale. You know, you have the board, and you have the superintendent, you got the directors,
Right.
and you got everybody. And it's in this portion that it's happening.
Right.
And they don't even know it's there until the big problem emerges, and you're like, oh wow, what did I do?
A lot of that is communication.
Yes.
And
Yes.
their lack thereof. Now, you know, a lot of people tell me, hey, you know, you don't go to the board meetings. You used to speak up in the public forum and address issues, advocate for the employees. And I said, well, I stopped doing that. And I says, and I'll tell you why. Because you got 3 minutes to talk. There's not a lot that you can really be honest about, you know, and I keep my humility about me, so I'm not worried about putting myself out there. I really don't like the limelight. I've told many people, says, you know, if I wanted my name in marquee lights, I would have moved to Hollywood. But you know, you keep your humbleness about you, and I did explain to them, so, well, when I get on the board, there's no time limit for discussion. You know, they give time limits to the public, but they give no time limits to themselves. So if I have no time limits as a board member, guess what? I'll have more of a chance to advocate than to be at the podium telling me, Mr. Roberts, you only have a minute left. Sorry, we cut you off. I won't have to worry about that.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way.
I would like to see, speaking of that, to open up the public comment to 5 minutes per speaker. It gives them an opportunity to finish their thought and to, you know, encourage people to come in. I'd like to see some town halls where it's just for public comment.
You know, I've been seeing more and more of disgruntled parents, disgruntled taxpayers, that they're not disgruntled, they actually have a claim, but they're labeled as disgruntled.
Correct.
By the board, by the administration, by the directors. By the time it gets to the board meeting, oh, that's a disgruntled guy that comes in here, and the board's believing it all, and now you have a problem. And you know, we have
it goes to the identity politics,
right,
is what it is.
You're absolutely right. And you know, you have that issue at LISD, you had that issue at UISD, and I believe there's going to be some lawsuits that are going to arise from that, just because of the lack of communication and trying to sit down and mediate what is the problem.
Right.
I understand fear factor. You know, if somebody goes up there and says, you're going to do this, I'm going to do this to you, that's okay. Now you're threatening me, but let's sit down and talk.
Right.
Understand? That's a difference.
Somebody that's passionate about
Yeah.
what they're feeling and want to discuss. you know, one thing is a direct threat, another thing is veiled threats. I mean, if you feel threatened as a board member or as an administrator, feelings are one thing, okay? Actuality is another. There was some instances that I feel were a violation of board policy. There might have been some Texas Open Meetings violations in the last board meeting as well. I won't get into too much detail about that, but I do want to thank you, by the way, for being here. And I did wear pink because it is, you know, Cancer Awareness Month. I know a lot of us have many family members that are either going through it or have passed away from cancer. So I just wanted to put that shot in there. Absolutely. Shout out to you
and folks,
let you know about that.
And that, you know, we, you know, cancer's it's a deadly disease.
Very.
Okay. And there's some survivors, and our heart goes out to everybody that's going through that. And, you know, our heart, you know, bless it, everybody that's going through that, has been going through that, and always trying to help towards that, you know. And I think that's what we can give, is our support to everybody. And if you're going through that, don't lock yourself in. Be around your friends, be around the people that love you. Don't recluse yourself to a dark spot that you can't get yourself out of. Get people around you to help you, okay? Because a lot of people that you might say, I'm alone. You're not alone. There's other people that love you, and they're your friends, and they support you. So get a bond of a group of folks.
Absolutely.
You know, that's number one. That's what I would say.
Absolutely.
That's what I would say.
You know, support groups is very important.
Yeah. And if you feel yourself in that, there's ways. So number one, God bless everybody that's going through that. God bless you all that are going through that, and swift recovery for those that have become survivors of cancer. Now, getting back to the voting, I see a lot of enthusiasm, especially like in the fire station in downtown. Mm-hmm. The fire station much more than anything else. But you know, we got this week, next week. That's it, folks. If you're going to vote, do it early. Do it early. Do not wait till the last day. This is a very important election. Always around. Always around.
Yes, it is. And you know, the interesting thing enough too is that somebody asked me the other day, so what do you think? You know, voter apathy has always been light in Laredo. You know, we've never gotten over 50% of the vote. I said, I think this year we're going to have a very high turnout. It might even break that 50%. I have an expectation. I have a feeling just by talking to people. You know, a lot of people walk around oblivious to what's going on around them, but I talk to so many people that they're very adamant about getting out there. I would expect long lines, as we're probably already seeing. We will know once, you know, the early voting counts come in how it looks, but I do expect a very, very big voter turnout in Webb County for the first time in a long time.
You know, I hope so. If it's people are afraid. I lost faith. I lost faith in the system, and the reason is of what happened the last time with police officers moving to a house, mm-hmm. and they got caught. How many times did they do it before? So I lost faith. I removed my name. I'm not voting. I'm sorry, but I lost faith. A lot of people have. I took my kids out there to go vote, teach them how to do it, and then they can take their own decisions afterward.
Correct.
The problem that I see is if everything's up and up, I think we'll have a lot of changes.
Yes.
But if you have the ballot harvesting, which we've had, which, you know, there's a lot of that going on, you're going to see a lot of people that did great in elections lose because of that ballot harvesting. Mm-hmm. But that's another story, and you know, that's what I'm afraid of that's going to happen at the end of the day.
Well, we'll see how we can work on that. You know, and to touch on some of the points that I put in my platform. The platform has been posted on Facebook, mm-hmm. LinkedIn. I do have those primary social medias. And there's been a very good response. Of course, a lot of people don't want to respond because of some of the things that I put in there are making people nervous and scared about some of the things that I'm looking at. So, you know, just to touch on some of that, you know, I'm looking to serve with integrity, compassion, a lot of passion, drive the communication. I think it's very, very important to do that. It's not about self. I've never been the person about, look at me. I've tirelessly focused on advocating selflessly for others. And I always believe that that's where you get your blessings, your rewards, by doing for others. So I would like to see town halls, more public comments. Let people vent. It's good for mental health.
Let me put it this way. You have to, there's an old saying, oh, that guy's a hater, that guy's a hater, that guy's a hater. Start paying attention to what they're saying, because what they might be saying might be true.
Right.
You have to change.
Right.
And people don't want to see that. They erase comments and block people, and you're like, oh, well, what are you doing that for?
Right.
But look at unless they're, cussing you out or something like that. Well, that's not.
Yeah, you're being unprofessional at that point.
But when you get comments like, this is happening over here and you're not paying attention, this is happening over here, we'll start taking a look at what's really happening there. Let's take a look about that.
Well, and it all starts by setting the example, because if you're going to be a role model, and you're going to be representing, you need to establish the example. Now, we know the board has policies in the public forum about you can't say names, you can't, call anybody out, but the board does. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander, if anybody's ever heard of that saying. So,
Is that what happens? Do they call people out directly?
The board member, a lot of the public comments, sometimes they'll call people out directly. They'll call out board members, they'll call out some of the administrators or council, and you'll hear it, and then they'll caution them not to do that. But then the board gets up and they start talking, about individuals. They do the same thing. So if you don't set the example, then you're going to create an environment where nobody's going to basically, nobody listens to you. You don't listen to them. So there's no communication. There's no consensus to come to, and everybody's just going to be raging on both sides of the aisle, and you're never going to really resolve problems. And we see that now, because the cancel culture has been around for a couple of decades already. So if Paul doesn't like something that Scott's saying, then Paul's going to tell everybody, Scott's this and Scott's that and Scott's this. But nobody ever asked you or ever asked me directly, what do I think? Because they get what Scott thinks from everybody else. Well, I'm glad everybody else thinks for me. I thought we were individuals and we had our own way of thinking.
Everybody knows me better. Thank you, Dan, for knowing me more than I know myself.
Right? Could you pay my bills for me, right? So I would like to see, from the standpoint of serving on the board is building more organizational capacity. And by doing that, you're including the parents, the students, the voters, the community. So one of the biggest points, especially when it comes to the taxpayers, community, and voters, is, and this is a novel idea, because I notice a lot of times in Laredo, and I'm just going to say Laredo politics, I'm not going to apply in general, but generically, that we tend not to advocate for others. They advocate for self, but they don't advocate for others. So what I would like to see, and this is going to be a novel idea, this is an idea that I like to put out there, because I know a lot of people, they hear ideas, but then they grab it and put it on an agenda and praise themselves for bringing it forward when it was somebody else's, because that's how they work. The idea of what I would like to see, and this is very, very important, because I want to set a precedent in the LISD, and I want to push the state and hopefully the national government to do this. When it comes to releasing or reducing the tax burden on our taxpayers, I want to see LISD, we're going to go ahead and once I'm elected, is to do a study, and I want LISD to set the precedent and say, we're going to remove all property taxes from every citizen that's 65 years or over and veterans from our tax rolls, and they'll no longer have to pay property taxes in our district. Now, what financial impact is that going to have to the district? I would say minimal, because you're talking about homestead. You're not talking about second homes. You're not talking about rental properties. You're talking about their primary place of residence. I think anybody over the age of 65 or veterans have already paid their dues to society. I think we need to reward them by removing that tax burden. We have the money to do it. I keep hearing at the national level, we're the richest country in the world. Why is Laredo in so much poverty then? Explain that.
Number 10.
And then how much taxes do we derive from the county, city, and the school district?
Number 10 in poverty.
How much do we derive from in the international business here? How much do we derive from the oil wells and whatnot? Nobody ever talks about that. So Can we reduce the tax burden for our senior citizens and our veterans here in Laredo? Yes, we can. And I'm proposing that we do a study to do that and we make it happen. We push the state to do it across the state. We get the national government to do it nationally for every taxpayer that's a homestead over 65 and a veteran of our armed forces. Now, that being said, we also need to set up more flexible payment plans. You know, instead of this, oh, you get double payment, or, you know, there's no monthly payment plan. People find it easier to budget themselves on a monthly basis because most live paycheck to paycheck. Well, if they're able to give, you know, $40, $50 a month toward their tax bill versus rocket day at Christmas and first of the year when everybody's broke, all of a sudden you have this big tax burden and they're going to start hitting you up with interest, and then when you can't pay it, the attorneys get involved to go to court and then they take your property. Well, from the last time I looked, none of these governmental entities are real estate, you know, moguls. They're not in business to operate in real estate. Neither are the banks. So they would prefer you paying, even if you come up with simple payment plans to really reduce the burden on the taxpayers. So those are two of the many platform ideas that I have for the taxpayers.
You know, there's laws. 'Cause I was talking to some last year about taxes, and and some of them were saying that there's even violations on how they're going about and collecting those taxes, and there are violations on how they're doing it and what they're doing, and people are like, really? And I go, yeah. So I honestly think that the school districts should hire an in-house attorney just for the taxes.
Correct.
Not outsource it out. Just hire just specifically to that.
Right.
You know, and it's very hard to hire attorneys for school districts because there's a lot of elements that go in there. And I was reading one case right now that's going up to the Supreme Court that they have to actually stipulate who they're representing when they get hired.
Right.
And a lot of these firms are not stipulating who they're representing.
That's right.
So there's a lot of conflicts of interest that they themselves are falling under in violation, but nobody's taking them to the board, nobody's taking them to anything else. And you understand there's a lot of conflicts of interest.
Right.
Who are you representing? You're representing the taxpayer?
Right.
Are you representing the students?
Right.
Are you representing the faculty? The employees? Are you representing the board? Are you representing the superintendent?
Right.
The police department? Who are you representing? And that's what people do not understand.
Correct.
All of a sudden they go in there and then they'll hire somebody else. Why do they hire somebody else? Because they understand that there's a conflict of interest there.
Correct.
So if they're doing that, then why should we have one? Should we have just one just for administrative purposes? Okay.
Yeah, my
You know what I'm saying?
understanding.
That'll be a lot cheaper than contracting.
My understanding under the law is that, you know, the counsel for the board, which is in policy, is a contractor, like any other contractor. They're paid on a contract. They're not an employee. They're not a board member, but they tend to represent administration and the board. And there's no clear lines of responsibility drawn, and that goes for board members. It goes for administration. It goes for the superintendent. It goes for council. And those are some of the things I put in the platform to address policy, to start delineating responsibility, because what it does is it starts convoluting a lot of things and it creates the perception of conflict of interest even if none exists. And perception to most people is reality. And those are some of the things that I actually, you know, I put on one of my talking notes to actually look at that.
Yeah.
And specifically that. You know, getting back to employees, I think streamlining also, and I really want to target as a board member the policies, especially local policies, because we have the legal policy as the framework, but I think the local policy tends to derive more from what legal is basically specifying. They want to add more in there. Well, if it doesn't specifically state here, then it's a gray area, so we can put it in, because as long as we're not challenged in court, who's going to tell us anything? Well, that's not you should be self-governing when it comes to things like that. Not waiting for
somebody to sue us. And
wait for somebody to sue us and then we'll do it, you know, because we're not being proactive here. we're being reactive. And I've never been a reactive person. I believe in coming up with ideas, like novel ideas, like this, reducing the tax burden for the taxpayers. I'm not saying that. I'm not promising it. I'm making a commitment to drive the idea, to make it happen. One way or the other, we're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is the most important. The other thing is, let's talk about the students for a while.
Sure.
The registration process at the beginning of the year is so cumbersome and it's so burdensome to family members because they put everything online, okay? But you've lived in the district year after year after year after year. Your kids go to the same schools. I know, I've dealt with this. But every year I have to go online and re-register. And then when I go to the school, I still have to take the bills with me and still go through all these workstations as if, and then they come another day to pick up their schedule. Okay? Well, I would think that, first of all, you have all these staff members out there doing all this work when it's needless, okay? Because if you have people registered already, automatically registered for the next year, and then reduce the roles of students who have moved or who no longer are in the district, or the new ones that are registering, and it reduces the amount of cumbersome and burdensome paperwork and everything that you're doing. Because you could already have the student schedule ready and say, you know what, when you come pick up the schedule, bring your light bill in just to confirm. Okay,
No,
fine.
all they have to do is, put in the form. Do you still live in the same area? Yes. Boom, that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
It's it.
And if you have multiple siblings, like I have in multiple schools and stuff, going through that paperwork yearly over and over, 5 times. I did it 5 times every single year.
Same here.
And then the different schools, mind you. So imagine the amount of time and effort you're taking away from your job. Instead of supporting your family, you're spending time doing what they're doing. And I think that streamlining that process and automatically registering the students for the following year, for the following grade level, and then all you have to do is when the parent shows up to get the schedule stuff, just verify the information is correct. And now your focus could be shifted over to those who left, or those who are coming in, or those perhaps that you need to make changes. I think that would streamline it, and it would make it more efficient. Efficiency is not a word we like to throw around a lot, or productivity. But these are the things that I focus on, and I come from a strategic level of management thinking, because in every management paradigm there is your strategic level, which is the top, your tactical level where you have all your administration, and then your operations where the bulk of our employees, including myself, are. We are the operational level. I just happen to be at the tactical level and the strategic level as well because of the grants, because of what it drives, because of what programs it might affect, or new ideas that come forward for us to do things. For instance, our early college programs. We're looking at applying for an additional early college program, probably for Nixon most likely. I would like to see VMT as an early college. I would like to see Laredo ISD, and they'll probably be happy and maybe not so happy about this, to build a new campus for an early college middle school. Now, the early college middle school can drive a lot of the dual credit courses in basics to get kids in the 8th grade started to transition up to high school to get their associate degree. By imagine that, Paul. If we had a chance to get our associate degrees before graduating high school, and the taxpayers are paying for that for these students instead of paying the next 30 years of taxes to cover all of the expenditures of them being in college, we're covering it now at this time and this level.
If you know, that's a great idea, but you know, a lot of people, we need that. We need that. You know, a lot of people might frown upon it, but I think that we have to be visionary to move forward on that sense, because if it's going to reduce in the future, we have to do it now.
Correct. And most of the early college focus would be in, since we do have an early college, the P-Tech, it's the Pathways to Technology Early College High School. We also have the Engineering Early College High School. We have 2 early colleges at Sigurd. We have 1 at Martin. We do not have one in Nixon. We have the early college at Tannehill. But Nixon's the next round. We're looking at actually moving to get Nixon to become an early college high school. I would like to see VMT become an early college high school. I would also like to see us create an early college middle school. And the reason being for that is because not every student is going to go into those fields. But it gives us the opportunity to start recruiting students to our programs. And because most of those programs in early colleges are skills. Okay. What did we talk about the last time in our last podcast about the lack of skill trades? And this is going to break and open that avenue up. It's also going to benefit Laredo College from many perspectives because they offer and provide the associate degrees for that.
You know, as well as early college, because not everybody goes to college. Not everybody's going to go the route academically. Others are going to go through vocations.
Correct.
I think we have to bring vocations back in. You know, there's a lot. There's a lot of vocations like butchery should be number one. Auto mechanics should be brought in. I don't know if we do have it or not. I think we do in some of the high schools. We have to bring those back. Even air conditioning should be brought in. Electricity should be brought in. The basics for you to be able to, when you graduate, to start off as maybe a fellow in some of the trades. You know, fellow plumber, fellow electrician. You know, not an apprentice, but at least it gives you that headway to move forward. We need that. Well, we need carpentry too. We need to get people that are into carpentry, understanding how to read drafts, drafting, bring back surveying. Absolutely. Those are the things that are building the future.
Correct.
And if we wait for a kid that's good at that, but we're not putting it in there, when he's 18, he's going to have to go to a vocation school, maybe take another 2-3 years for him to get it out of the way. Right. Now you're looking at he's 21, 22. But what happens as soon as he graduates at 17, 18 years old, he's able enough to help out. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You don't have to get those big certificates.
To clarify on the early college, high school and early college middle school models, some of them are academic for associate degrees. The others are specifically for pathways in technology, which is your HVAC, your plumbing, your construction, your automotives. We also have AI drafting that's going on. We have the butcher, the actual meat processing. We have the welding. We have the auto mechanics. We have the paint and body. We have the diesel mechanics program. So there's a lot of things tied into those early colleges that are also focused not only on skill, but also academic. And that's when you have the best of both, I think it's going to give the students the opportunities to make choices. I always supported my kids in the choices they wanted to make. You know, I had a son that decided he wanted to be in medical, so he went to Martin for his first year, and you know he didn't feel like it fit well, so he went back to Nixon. But after graduating, he went off to the Marine Corps. Finished the Marine Corps. He's a Marine Corps vet. He did 2 tours, and now he works for the Department of Navy, and he's in computer science like his old man. You know, I have one that's active duty Army. He's in computer science like his old man. He went to college and got his degree in that as well before he joined the forces. And then, of course, I have an active duty Marine that he graduated in 2020, which was the sequestration or whatever they called it. You know, that it was the pandemic year that we had to take him to graduation. Everybody's like all spread out and everything. It was pretty crazy. But he's active duty Marine right now. And my daughter, graduated. She went to VMT as well and graduated from Nixon, and she went off to get her architectural degree in UTSA. And very proud of all of them. You know, my wife, in the meantime, she also went on and graduated in 2019 with her MBA from TenU. I encouraged her to go back and finish it off. She waited on me and worked full time so I could get my degrees first. But, a lot of people even tell me, you don't post your degrees, you don't talk about it. I said, because I didn't get those degrees to brag about myself. I got them to support my family. The purpose of what you do things in life are not necessarily for yourself, although the benefits indirectly come to you.
Sure.
But if you keep your integrity, you're humble, you seek to help others, that's the most rewarding, most fulfilling thing that you can ever have as an individual, because you won't have mental health issues. You might struggle financially, but who doesn't? That's a common thing that we all have to work and deal with. So I do feel that a lot of programs can be put in place. A lot of the policies can be streamlined. A lot of the roles and responsibilities can be delineated. And we can also lessen the burdens on our taxpayers by coming up with novel new ideas in order to fund it. Because I'm telling you this is that I think anybody over the age of 65 that already has paid or still paying on their home should be relieved of the burden of taxes at this point.
I understand.
And the veterans as well. I do advocate a lot for the veterans. I advocate a lot for our employees. You know, los quiero mucho y los voy a apoyar en todo lo que puedo. You know, I know a lot of our employees, you know, their first language is Spanish. I'm pretty well versed in Spanish. You know, my wife is Mexican, so I learned a lot. So I speak to them on a daily basis. I mean, I don't relish or favor the ideas of walking around the halls of where I work or any establishment seeing anybody as less than.
Yeah. No, and you shouldn't be. You know, everybody has a job to do. That's the way I look at it. And that's just the way it is. You can never put, if you look at somebody down and you bow down to look at somebody, it's because you're helping them get up. That's the way I look at things.
Absolutely. You know, I wash my own clothes, I iron. You know, when my wife can't help me out, I iron, I fold. You know, I mop the floors, I sweep, I cut the yard.
That's just part of life.
You know, I wear many hats. You know, and everybody's like, "Yeah, but you went to school, so what?" And since when does that change anything?
You can't be otherwise. You have to be that way.
You know, and I've always told everybody, I said, you know, I grew up, you know, in La Barrios. You know, I grew up on military bases, and we grew up poor. I don't want to say we grew up a middle class family because I've heard that already. but you know, we grew up poor. You know, and one thing I did learn is that, you know, I learned a lot of common sense and a lot of things that, you know, you learn as you grow. So once I went to college and I received those degrees, I became even more of a threat to most people, because the problem you have is when you have somebody that has common sense, that grew up with common sense and a basis of truth and a basis of belief and integrity and humility and so on, and then now they're educated, it's hard to win, because you got to not only beat me on the intellectual side, but if you're wanting to get down to the street level fight, I could go there too, you know, to pick your poison.
That's right, you know. So, I mean, you know what I like, you know, what I say about you, that you're having fun in the campaign. That's what it's all about. Yeah, it's serious, but you still have to have that banter inside.
I'm enjoying it. You know, a lot of people say, hey, we don't see your signs out there. We don't see flyers. I say, you know how many flyers I got to the house? You know what people do with the flyers? They toss them in the trash. They don't read them. You know, they won't even look at the pictures. Most people already know who they're voting for because they've already talked to their neighbors, their friends. I told them I'm using social media because that's the platform out there. The word of mouth is the most basic marketing tool ever. Because I even told somebody, I said, you know, it's kind of funny because let me ask you this: when Jesus was out there, you know, he was advocating for God and stuff, you know, how did he get his word out if he didn't have social media back in the day? It was all word of mouth. It carried through. The message carried. And I said, that's my strategy to this campaign. I said, I did put it out on Facebook that I'm having a Halloween bash. Come and meet the candidate, Scott Roberts, at 1918 Reynolds Street, Laredo, Texas. On the 31st, it's from 6 to 9 o'clock. Awesome. I mean, my wife and I always decorate the house and we pass out candy. It's been a couple of years I didn't do it because things got in the way, but we have it set up to where, you know, we want people to come by and say hi, you know, especially those students at Tarver and in Alma Pierce and Nixon High School, obviously. You know, my wife's a product of Nixon. My 4 kids are a product of Nixon. I do have one from Cigarroa. He wanted to go to the engineering, and that's fine. He graduated from the engineering program, and we've been able to do a lot for the South. Now, I do want to see from the students' perspective, I want the district to create a lot more work-based learning programs where you get that shadow, that model of individual working with them as an apprentice and so on. And I also want to see more flexible work schedules for students that are burdened by having to support their families, because the attendance problems are definitely an issue. So another novel idea I would like to throw out there, and it's not just for the working class students, but I want to see a night school in Laredo ISD for those who want to go back to school, especially our employees, to get their GED or to work towards getting a degree or some type of certificate in the trades.
That'd be nice. Well, you know, we're running out of time, but I think it's great. Folks, early voting, you know, we're second day already, so you guys take it from there. You all stay safe, be safe, and once more, thank you for coming out. Thank you for showing your ideas. They're great ideas. Folks, till next time, much peace.
Thank you.